All right, let's talk about what it really means to be a product manager. We're not going to go through the typical job description stuff. Instead, we're diving into the real journey, the shift from just learning a bunch of skills to truly owning an outcome. It's a fundamental transformation, and we're going to break it down step by step. Okay, so right off the bat, let's get one thing straight. It's so easy to see product management as just a checklist, right? Learn to write specs. Check. Build a roadmap. Check. Manage a backlog. Check. But that completely misses the point. The real journey is a total transformation. It's less about what you do and way, way more about how you think. It's not about ticking boxes on a skill sheet. It's a transformation. It's about becoming something new, not just learning something new. It's to fundamentally change who you are as a professional and really step into the role of a product leader. So, where do you even start with a journey like that? Well, I'll tell you where it doesn't start. It doesn't start with a big, fancy feature idea or some technical document. Nope, it all begins with reality, specifically your user's reality. And that first crucial stage is all about discovery. And look at how we're defining discovery here. The keyword isn't building or ideating, it's curiosity. And that distinction is so, so important. The best products don't just magically appear from some brilliant idea in a vacuum. They're born from this deep, almost obsessive need to just understand the user's world. Okay, so what does being curious actually look like in practice? Well, it means you've got to get out there. You have to literally step into your user's shoes, watch what they do, see where they get stuck. You have to constantly question what you think you know, but here is the absolute golden rule. You must deeply understand the problem before you even dream of a solution. Seriously, rushing this step is probably the single biggest mistake any new PM can make. Your job is not to be a feature factory, just taking orders and churning things out. No way. Your real value, your true purpose, is to become the #1 expert in your user's reality. That expertise is the bedrock. Everything else you do is built right on top of that foundation. So, you've done the work, you've become that expert, you've gathered all this amazing insight. What now? What do you do with it? Well, this next stage is all about translating that raw understanding into a clear, actionable direction that your team can actually follow. This is really the first big test of a great product manager. Having empathy for the user is absolutely essential, but it's just the raw material. Your job is to be the translator. You have to take all that messy human insight and shape it into a coherent plan that an engineer or a designer can look at and say, okay, I get it. I know what we need to do. I absolutely love this metaphor of strategy as a bridge. It's perfect, right? Because a strategy isn't just some boring document that sits on a hard drive. It's the vital connection. On one side of the river, you have the user's pain. On the other side, you have your product's direction. Without that bridge, all that valuable insight you gathered is just, well, it's stuck and completely useless. So how do you actually build this bridge? Well, it follows a pretty clear path. First, you take all that research and you synthesize it, you boil it down. Then you have to distill all of that into one crystal clear problem statement, a problem that's actually worth solving. And finally, from there, you create a compelling vision and a practical roadmap that gets the entire team on the same page and rowing in the same direction. Okay, you've got a strategy, you've got a roadmap. Now it's time to make things real, right? Time to build. Well, yes and no, because as we're about to see, execution isn't just about building stuff. It's actually all about learning. So, a roadmap is not a wish list. It's not a letter to Santa filled with every feature you can possibly imagine. It's a series of difficult, deliberate choices. And honestly, deciding what you're not going to do is often just as important as deciding what you will. This is where your strategy truly meets reality. This whole approach is really driven by what's called the lean mindset. And the core idea is simple, but it's also profound. Your competitive advantage isn't how fast you build, it's how fast you learn. Every single feature you ship is basically an experiment designed to teach you something new about your users. So how do you get faster at learning? It really comes down to 3 things. Launch the smallest possible thing you can to test your idea. Learn fast by measuring the results obsessively. And critically, validate your biggest assumptions before you commit a ton of time and resources to building the whole shebang.
And this really gets to the heart of it all. Your goal isn't perfection, it's understanding. The questions you should be asking aren't, is this thing flawless? But does it actually solve the problem? And did we understand our users correctly? That is the prize you're chasing.
Now, we're at a huge turning point in this journey. So far, everything's been about creating a product. But what happens once that product is out in the wild, in the hands of real users? Well, your role changes completely. You shift from being a creator to being an owner. This is the moment the training wheels really come off. When real people start to depend on your product for their work, their communication, their daily lives, the stakes get so much higher. Your responsibilities suddenly expand way beyond just adding new features. Before you launch, your entire focus is on building value. But after launch, a new, much more profound responsibility shows up, upholding the trust that your users have placed in you and your product. So, what does upholding trust actually mean? It means realizing that every product makes these unspoken promises. A promise of reliability, a promise of performance. It means being transparent, especially when things go wrong. And maybe most importantly, it's understanding that how you handle bugs and outages will define your relationship with users way more than any new feature ever will. That is product ownership. Okay, let's zoom out for a second and bring this whole journey together. We've gone all the way from discovery to strategy, from execution to ownership. It's not a list of separate tasks. It's an integrated practice. It's discovering real problems, making sure they align with business goals, leading your team with clarity, executing with intent, and most importantly, owning that trust you build with your users over the long term. You see, the journey we've just gone on, it isn't about memorizing a bunch of frameworks or processes. It was about shaping a mindset, a whole new way of thinking and working. It's about really internalizing what it means to be a product manager. Which brings us to a final critical realization. After you internalize this complete journey, from that initial curiosity all the way to this deep sense of ownership, you're no longer just someone learning about the role. You get it now. You understand what it truly takes. You are a product manager. So, I'll leave you with this final question, one that shifts the focus from learning to doing. Now that you know you own the outcome, what promise will your product make to its users? And maybe more importantly, how are you going to uphold it?